And at this time, I will call for nomination of Chairperson Pro Tem.
I'll nominate Don Brickmeyer. Second.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. No, you're done.
Okay, item 2, determination of a quorum and that the agenda was properly posted. Lisa?
It was.
It was. Okay, item 3, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 4, public appearances, the public's opportunity to speak about any subject that is not a specific agenda item. Do we have anyone for that? No?
I
Okay.
don't have anything.
Okay. Item 5.
John,
just-
could you just explain to people that if you do want to talk and it's not on a specific item, or I guess even if it is a specific item, please fill out one of the forms back there, because I know there's been some confusion, people
Okay.
not realizing that they can speak.
Okay. So item 5, we're going to discuss and consider the minutes from the Plan Commission meeting of September 12th, 2018. Did everyone have a chance to review those?
I'll make a motion to approve. as presented.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the September 12th, 2018 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
One abstention. Melissa?
Because I wasn't here.
Right, yep.
Otherwise, it looked fine.
Okay, item 6 is a public hearing, and we don't have a time specifically on here, so we can open the public hearing at 6:34. So it's the public's opportunity to provide feedback on a request from BB Jack's Restaurant for approval of a conditional use permit to permit an indoor commercial entertainment land use for a bar restaurant serving alcohol to be located in an existing multi-tenant building located at 1609 Landmark Drive. And do we have the applicants here?
I don't think so, but it's pretty straightforward. So in any case, where we have a indoor commercial entertainment land use, which would be a restaurant, bar, things like that, requires a conditional use permit if it is either adjacent to a residence or if they plan to be serving alcohol. BB Jack's will be pursuing a liquor license at an upcoming board meeting, so that triggers the need for the conditional use permit. This is within the former Gadorzi, now Grey Wolf building. They'll be occupying the southern end of it. It's a restaurant with a bar and a pretty sizable game room adjacent to it. We need to recommend approval with no conditions other than just that it applies specifically to this business at this location.
Okay. Anyone here to speak for or against that? Planning Commission members, any discussion? I'm glad to see that space starting to develop a little bit. It's been a long time coming.
Don, you might want to close the public hearing and then
Then do
Planning
it?
Commission could, yeah.
Okay, so I will close the public hearing at 6:36. And anyone have any discussion from the Planning Commission on this?
I was just wondering, what is the entertainment part of the?
It's a pretty broad category. It includes the restaurant and the bar and the game room. They would all fall within that.
Yeah, the game room is that.
Pinball and things
Pinball
like
stuff?
that?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
kind of
it's
thing.
like an arcade.
Yeah. Is it gonna take tokens or will it be like a card? Swipe card?
Don't-
Or good old fashioned quarters?
Not sure.
Or dollar bills? Or- Yeah, more like dollars. So, that's pretty good stuff. fries. Yeah. And then you see the big fries room in the corner too?
See that?
So I will, are we on number 7?
Item 7, correct.
So I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit to permit an indoor commercial entertainment land use for the bar restaurant serving alcohol to be located in an existing multi-tenant building located at 1609 Landmark Drive.
Okay, motion by Melissa, second by Kyle, to approve the request from DB Jack's Restaurant for approval of a conditional use permit to permit an indoor commercial entertainment land use for a bar or restaurant serving alcohol to be located in an existing multi-tenant building located at 1609 Landmark Drive. Any further discussion?
It's not gonna be like a Dave and Buster's though, right?
In what sense?
Well, it's not gonna be like
No.
super big, like I've never been in a Dave and
The other
Buster's, so I don't
locations
know.
aren't certainly like a Dave and Buster's.
Okay, good, thank you.
I guess I have one concern about parking,
Mhm.
and it was noted by staff, and I'm just curious, so we're gonna push that
Sure.
off to the next tenant?
Well, Princeton Club's next,
Well, but I mean,
Or there.
they mentioned a concern, depending on what else goes in there, so.
Well, how many people?
And is the parking on both sides of the building? Or
Correct.
3 sides, I guess?
Correct. And it's adequate now. The site was designed with the idea that the building would be filled with uses like this. So at least at that point, it was determined that this amount was adequate. It is adequate for now, but I guess if they keep putting other high parking intensity uses that are all using it at the same time, that might be something we have to take into consideration. Princeton Club, I think their traffic is fairly steady throughout the day. This place would be more in the evening. I know Grey Wolf is thinking about putting their own offices in there. That would be daytime and not a whole lot of traffic from them.
Say at a placeholder for another building between the gas station and
right.
the building, and if you needed it, I mean, they may have to replan that.
And add parking there.
There is a green space there now.
Any other discussion before we do the vote from planning or staff? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 8, discuss and consider a request from John Schneider LLC for approval of a final plat for the West Drumlin subdivision.
So Mr. Schneider is here if there are any questions, but it's, the plat itself is the exact same layout that we saw at the preliminary plat. He's picked up, fixed all the conditions we had for the preliminary plat drawing and for the covenants. So we'd recommend approval. Just the only condition is just a reminder about the park fees that was in there before.
What was that?
The only condition that's left is just a reminder about the park fees that you would have to pay fee in lieu of park decorations.
Are those park fees due upon sale of each one of those lots? Is that how that is collected?
Typically when the phase is released.
As soon as it, sorry,
It's typically when the phase is released, so it would be when it's recorded.
when it's recorded, okay.
Anyone have any questions? Discussions?
What was the charge for the park fees you just did?
Was $1,356 was the fee of lieu, and then $250 for park development per lot.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for the West Drumlin subdivision for John Schneider LLC. I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and just a second to recommend approval of a request from John Snyder LLC of a a final plat for the West Drumlin subdivision.
There are a couple of conditions, or there was one condition, and I think when we make the motions for approval, then we should
Include those.
include the conditions or mention them, yeah, so.
Yes, with the conditions as presented by staff. I agree.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 9, pre-application presentation of concept for a planned unit development involving residential uses located at 4226 Vilas Road. Presentation is for feedback only, no formal action will be taken.
We have Debbie Beaver here from William Ryan Homes. She'll walk us through what they're thinking. 4226 Vilas Road is the farm golf course.
So you think I can just do this?
Yeah, should be able to just swap the plugs.
So while this is loading, I am Debbie Beaver. I'm the Vice President of Operations for William Ryan Homes. And today I'd like to just discuss with you a piece of property that we are under contract on. So we are the contract purchaser. First of all, who we are. William Ryan Homes is a national home builder. We've been around for 26 years. We build in Milwaukee, Madison, Chicago, Tampa, and Phoenix. But we do have local roots here. Bill Ryan, who's William Ryan Homes, went to school at Marquette. And the second division we opened was out of Milwaukee. So we've been around for quite a while. We have a professional staff, so we have someone on staff for every discipline in the process, all the way from land planning through land development through building the homes. And we are the builder of well-appointed single-family homes. The property in discussion is at 4226 Vilas Road, which, as Aaron mentioned, is the farm. And that's an outline of the actual property that we have under contract. So it's not just the farm, but some property to the west of it. It's approximately 101.5 acres. It's currently zoned rural holdings. And it is annexed and lies within the village comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan calls for a planned neighborhood with a mixture of single-family and multi-family residences, and that the site as a whole would be 35% multifamily and 65% single-family, and calls for a density of 4 to 8 units. For just a moment, I'd like to actually talk about the site. The site is a difficult site to develop. I think most people know it's been on the market for quite some time, has had some look at it, but it has some challenges to it, which we're aware of and we'd like to work through. The first one is the wetlands on the site. It does have some extensive wetlands. The next one is actually the site terrain. As you'll notice here, the site drops from 938 feet all the way down to 894 feet above sea level, which is about a 44-foot fall. So we have to take that into consideration as well. And the third site condition is the lack of utilities and services to the site. Currently, sewer and water are located up here, just off of Humbrick's property, and is located down here. So when we combine all of the site restrictions together, what we came to a conclusion of for the planned development or the planned neighborhood is that the area that has the wetlands in it right now is going to take some work. And since the utilities are coming from the west side to the northwest of the property, we would be looking to put the single family portion in first and then reserve future development areas, which you see in this bubbled area here, would be the area where future development would go for the attached homes. So for site data, we have 101.5 acres. 17 acres would be designated as single family. 30 acres would be the future development of attached homes. It leaves 54 acres of open space. So total units, we're looking at 65 single-family units and 294 attached homes for a count of 359. That would be about 3.8 units per the acre, so we'd be coming in less than what the planned unit development or the comprehensive plan would be looking for.
Could you just go through the math, just back up a second and
Sure.
give us again you got 17 acres.
It's all up there, Lee.
I know, but I can't see.
It's all right. I can't see it
You
from
want to
here either.
discriminate? I'm sorry.
Okay, so 101.5 acres,
Yep,
and then 17 acres are single family,
right.
30 acres are future development of attached homes, and 54 acres of open space.
Okay.
And so that creates 65 single-family homes, 294 attached homes, for a density of 3.8.
Thank you.
I also wrote down that, so I believe the allowable multifamily or attached housing can be 35% of the site. At 35%, we would be allowed 35 acres, and we're only showing 30 acres. And then for single family, we would be allowed 66 acres, and we're only using 17 as single family. So everything is coming in below what the suggestion was. What we would like to do, again, because of the wetland areas, and we need more study on that, but we'd like to get going on the site right away, is we want to focus on doing the planned neighborhood and getting that structure all in place and making sure that we get the entitlements for the entire site in place all at once. But at the same time, we want to bring the preliminary plat and preliminary engineering for the single family portion online, because we'd like to start development on that come spring. So for the single family site, it would be 30 acres of the piece would be the single family. And I had to turn the map sideways just so I could blow it up. So north is this way. So 65 homes. We did try to get the road to meander as much as we could on a site that was a rectangle site. I mean, it's pretty elongated. We have trees up in this area here that we're going to be looking to save. This is the area where the topography falls down quite a bit. So we just, instead of trying to put in, really expensive retaining walls, we just decided to move the street this way and give these people all open space behind them. It also puts open space between us and the neighborhood behind us. I think that's... So I wanted to just get your feedback on our initial pass at the development and find out whether you were in favor of letting us move forward and doing a planned neighborhood and doing the phase 1 preliminary plat and engineering for the single family section, and to answer any questions, comments you had.
I have no issues with the single-family portion. I guess I want to know a little bit more about your attached home. What you're thinking there and what you're looking at.
We're not thinking anything and not looking at anything yet, other than what your comprehensive master plan calls for. Is we know that we will stay within that.
Is it,
We're not going to design anything that falls outside of what you guys have already decided that you want to see on the site.
The process we'd be looking at is to do the zoning as a planned unit development. So it would be a general development plan followed by a precise implementation plan. The general development plan can be more diagrammatical. It could have clouded areas with a density applied to it that they would have to fall within. And then presumably they would come back with a precise implementation plan and the preliminary single family portion they want to start with. And then get the precise implementation plan and the final plat for the remainder down the road. But they would be tied into that density that's applied at the top level.
I guess I'd prefer on the multifamily to have more, not any big mass buildings. I'd rather have smaller structures
So,
than big mass.
are you talking mass like height or mass like a 5-unit wide townhome?
I have no issues with the 5-unit wide townhome. I don't know if there's any opportunity for 55 and older, maybe. That's just something to think about.
So my previous employer, I worked for D.R. Horton, which is Caroline, which is age-targeted stuff. Generally, we look for walkability. You know, when you're talking about age-targeted, you really need for them to have access to either recreation or downtown or that sort of thing. So this site doesn't, I'm not saying that we couldn't do it, I'm just saying that at first blush, you wouldn't consider this to be an age-targeted site.
We do have a couple duplex type 55 and older developments in the village.
Yeah, they're in high demand right now.
Yeah.
They really are.
Anyone else?
Is that supposed to have a street go all the way through it? Like, is that how we have it set up? But that's what it's planned for?
Yeah,
A long
the
street?
point is to have the
That's
connection.
Sandpiper.
The point would be to have the connection be made from BB down to Violet Road, whether it's a straight line or,
Way
curves a little
back,
bit to make the plan work is not relevant.
It's just-
The point is just to have the connection made over it.
way back when this came in, as a golf course, years and years ago, it was, Don Kelcher had the foresight to say, hey, someday it's probably going to be developed into residential. So, I mean, from the get-go, on the planning commission level, we were aware that this may happen, and if anyone has been around long enough, it was pretty controversial on a few things brought in. People wanted it to be all park-like or whatever, but no one was able to get grants or come up with the money to purchase it to do that. So,
Yeah, and just kind of picking up on what Don's saying, and you're probably aware of this, and I don't say it in any kind of negative reaction to what you want to do, but this has been a subject that fills this room with the neighbors.
I expect it will.
Okay, so trying to anticipate or address those, I know as part of the process, you have to have a public meeting, and I think just meeting that head on is maybe a good way to go, because Don and Phyllis and myself have sat through those, and it's like, well, I never knew it was going to be this, and I never knew it was going to be that, and so it's gone through a lot of iterations.
And I do think that part of what we tried to do here is you can see, and part of this is driven by wetland anyway, is that we've tried to put open space and stormwater detention behind the existing homeowners, and tried to put a buffer here between the existing homeowners.
no, what you've done is great, and we're just forewarning you that you're going to have
I
people
know.
from the village and the town.
Yeah, no matter
I'm
how great,
aware. I'm
no
aware.
matter how great it is.
Yeah.
there are
I actually
people
just,
that disagree.
Unfortunately, golf courses just aren't in as high demand as they used to be, and the closing of golf courses nationwide is a big thing right now. There's a historical golf course on the North Shore that's closing in Chicago, and it's been very controversial. But I just got done doing a planned unit development for a golf course in Chicago, and we had 110 people show up for the hearing. Everybody gets their 3 minutes, and you want to hear what they have to say, and having been through that process, we tried to design this with that already in mind. I mean, we could, with the planned neighborhood and the master plan that you guys have, this site could fit like 500 homes, right? But, it would take us years to get it through the process, and we're trying to be sensitive to the neighborhood and to the environment and stuff like that. And so we felt that this plan was a plan that could do, make the property worthwhile and get it developed and end up with a really nice site, in addition to being sensitive to the people who live around it.
Some good information to have in the future too would be the approximate finished value of the entire taxable value of the entire neighborhood would be good information to have.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the wetlands do help in there, and then if you really, develop the wetlands for buffers, and that's gonna help a lot with people accepting
it because it's going to be partially open space like most
Yeah, I
everybody
mean, you
wanted?
figure of 101 acres, 54 acres of it is open space.
Yeah.
And it's almost half.
So that's, I think, really to your benefit to really play that up.
Well, we're trying to, again, we could come in here and try and cram 500 units in, but, right, it just is a big battle that, you know, I don't think anybody wants. So we're trying to come in with something that's, you know, reasonable and could benefit everybody, you know, including the village.
So with this, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So with the single-family homes area, that street would be Sandpiper, is that
I'm not,
technically?
if that's technically right, yeah.
So then, the part that's not being developed where the attached homes would be, where would that street, because it looks like that corner goes into houses then.
Yeah, this street would end up, you know, depending, you know, we haven't spent a lot of time on here because of the wetlands. We need to get them like mitigated and understand what can be moved, what can't be moved. Because I really don't think this is wetlands through here, I could be wrong. But we'd either put in an in and out entrance to circle us around, but there is no point of egress up back.
Right. Is there,
It's landlocked at the moment.
right, so is there any way to have a street go between the single and the attached homes at all?
Currently, that goes through wetlands, so I don't think so. Again, it's something that we'll look into as we, you know, our first thing is to come up with a concept plan and have discussion with you, and then to hire an engineer. We have not had an engineer look at this, look at the wetland delineation report yet. This is, you know, what we believe we want to move forward with, but, you know, this thing is going to move as we actually do engineering, and especially when we talk about that fall, that 44-foot fall, there's things that could possibly change.
Mike, how about traffic on Vilas Road? That's going to be one of the topics that everyone's going to come up with. It's going to be schools topic, traffic.
Well, at a former meeting, you know, a lot of folks brought up that we should be building bigger roads to get between Vilas Road and Cottage Grove Road. And this is one I pointed out, kind of continues to help build the grid of local streets that provide that, those other options, so that one particular road isn't like your 4-lane highway that you need to get from points north and south. And it had been planned, you know, you mentioned Don Culture, and it had been planned, and there's actually a 60-foot wide easement running north and south. And that was put on there not so much for the road, but it was just a placeholder to say we've got to get a sewer through here too, to Cottage Grove Road. And we would release that easement in lieu of a roadway dedication there. So the utilities are important there too, as far as continuity and the next development north and future developments. So there's 1,200 to 1,400 cars per day on Vilas Road in that area. And I envision this would bring it up, but it would also take some of that traffic that's on the road and take it directly to a destination like Piggly Wiggly or something.
But to put that into context though, the 1,200, 1,400, that's about 14-15% of the capacity of Vilas Road as currently constructed.
Right.
So you don't, the village won't need to do anything, or there doesn't need to be any improvements beyond how Vilas Road is currently constructed until you get approaching 10,000 cars a day. So we're nowhere near, I mean,
Those are
at
just
some point
stats.
we have to speak to facts and not just anecdotal stories of, you know, it's tough to get out to my mailbox. So
those are things that, you know, if it does get to a public hearing, we're going to need to just get that out right away.
right.
Well, the school board's going to be at the village board meeting Monday night, if I remember. And the first question I'm going to ask on the record is, do you have any issues with development in the village? Because I'm sick and tired of being told by outside of the village, with those that have nothing but anecdotes, that this is an issue, and it's never been an issue for the school district.
It's never been since every village or every school or school business manager that's ever came here has never said it's been a problem, ever. Okay, is that kind of the favorable thing you were looking for, or there's no
Yeah.
action on this, but?
Yeah, I mean, we're just, again, the next step would be to hire an engineer and, I wouldn't want to go spend it sort of money. I didn't feel like people were in support of a plan like that.
I'm sorry, how big were each individual single home lots?
They are 65 by 130. Yeah, 65 by 130. But keep in mind that even though they're only 130 deep, they're
Right.
really, like if you were to take these lots and assign them the open space, it's not like they're 65 by 130 backing up to each other.
Except for those corner ones.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time. So Aaron, I'll be in touch.
Okay, item 10, discuss and consider a request from James and Mary Ann Gardy for approval of a site plan for the first phase of an office and light industrial project to be located at 4901 County Highway.
Hello again. So I think everybody knows Marianne and Jim, and then this is Arlen from Edge Consulting Engineers. And I think you guys have pretty much all of our papers in your packet, so hopefully you've seen pretty much everything that we have. The only additional item that I have is Arlen's group was able to come up with some sort of three-dimensional renderings of what the project would look like. And so I just wanted to make sure that I shared those. So this would be coming from down Highway N from the north, and that would be our office area. That would be coming from the south. That would be sort of looking straight on, and then that's from looking behind the property. Yes.
Yeah, so they're looking for approval of both the site plan and the conditional use permit for the personal storage units. This did go to the CDA this past Monday night, and the village action report for that meeting is at your table there. They did vote 6-0 to not recommend it. I think they were looking for a different kind of project as kind of the first step in the new TID 10. There are some concerns about the number of employees potentially, and then yeah, basically that there's one chance to make a first impression, and I guess in the CDA's opinion, this was not the project they were looking for. That said, I think the design of it is very well done. Certainly for storage units, they look great. But certainly that's the concern I think everyone has to weigh as they look at this.
And I guess from my perspective, I think the zoning got approved last month at the board meeting. I know that was a question for Kyle, and I think we meet the correct use for a conditional use permit. I think we fit within the comprehensive plan. I think the original staff report recommended approval of these. The only other thing that I had, and I always think it's fascinating, I pulled up the CDA packet. Sometimes I'm thinking, all right, maybe this is sort of a sign from God or something like that. But Paula Severson from the Cottage Grove Chamber of Commerce gave a presentation there. I guess she's been working on a branding book for the village and town and the chamber to try to stimulate business development. And I think, and again, I was just kind of reading through this really, really briefly, so I apologize. I think they hired the UW Extension folks to come in, and they did a survey of about 400 residents within the village, and they said, you know, what differentiates Cottage Grove from everybody else? They spent about 18 months putting together the results and coming up with a book that I think is going to be used in a variety of different ways. And the part that really struck me was the tagline, which is kind of the summary. Okay, this is how we're going to summarize what we have in this booklet. And this is the tagline, close-knit and close by. So that's the best branding that they thought would fit for what Cottage Grove has to offer. And I thought it was really kind of amazingly ironic, because I don't think they could have chosen an image that fits what we do and what we want to do better than this. I think our project fits really, really well within what Cottage Grove is all about. And whether it fits with what the CDA wants or not, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's something, and I'm going to be honest. If it's not a fit, I don't really have any desire to butt heads and cause problems. I mean, it's a lot of stress and frustration. So I'd rather, you know, say, hey, if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. We're cool, right? But I personally really think we fit with what Cottage Grove needs and wants, and so I would, even despite the CDA's recommendations, I would still ask you to vote in favor of this. So.
I would say the CDA told them it wasn't a fit a year ago as well. And what's being left out here is that the future phases of this project are going to need an incentive. So if the village doesn't provide the incentive, we may just have storage units out there.
So those are interesting. I actually looked up the minutes from the 2017 CDA meeting, because there was a little bit of discussion amongst the CDA members, a couple of whom said, we told you not to buy this property. And the discuss and consider was to rezone the property. And the reason to not rezone it was because, as we discussed last month, the comprehensive plan said to avoid rezoning it. So there weren't, in the minutes anyway, any discussions about saying they didn't like the property. It was a question of rezoning, at least as far as what's in the minutes, and that I think has already been addressed. As far as needing incentives, the parts that we need incentives for are the parts that cost more to develop, which for this phase is mostly the decorative items, the siding and the landscaping. The rest of that project doesn't necessarily need incentives, and to be honest, I haven't even necessarily delved into that. To me, that's a step beyond once we have some other cost figures that I can figure out, but we haven't asked for any incentives, and I don't know if we will or we won't. But
That's a problem.
That's what, yeah.
That's a problem
Of not asking for incentives?
of us not knowing and approving the least desirable portion of this project first.
Planning Commission members, Aaron, Kyle?
I think that the zoning itself is consistent with what they're looking for in this area. I'm a little still confused on, I guess, the first phase. So if I'm reading this right, it looks like we're not putting any office in right now. We're just doing storage to start and then getting into multiple phases down the road. And I think the problem with that for Cottage Grove is we've been down this road before with a number of projects, and it just never gets to phase 2, 3, 4, and 5. So they're just really skittish to where we're currently sitting on committing to do this without a more direct or more secure position. I think that's what you're seeing. It's hard for me to go one way or another with knowing what the CDA is looking at and where we're currently sitting and what I'm looking at. It's just my opinion on that.
Okay. Is there anything that would make you feel more secure in that phase 2, 3 part of things? Or?
I think if this was coming in front of these boards with going right to the office space with the employees and kind of the business committing to this location, I think you'd get a totally different response, in my opinion. But I can give multiple examples of projects that have happened around the community to where the total project looks awesome, but we never got past phase 1. So, and it's dependent on business model and economics and stuff, and I think that's what you're kind of seeing as you're going through this process, is that you're just not getting past, they're not feeling a lot of faith of getting to phase 2. So if you can wrap phase 1 and phase 2 together and come in front of the boards, I think you get a totally different response.
So is phase 2 needing utilities being put in out there, and is the village saying we don't know if those are going to be available when they want them available, or what is actually the issue with phase 2 starting? I mean, if they're ready, will the village just automatically just say, okay, we're going to extend the utilities for you because you're ready, or is...
Well, I mean, we'd have
You don't know
have to
that.
figure out how to finance that.
Right.
And the development isn't necessarily
Yep.
big
timing
enough
might not be
to
right.
warrant extending utilities, but
Yeah.
we actually can't service the area at all yet with utilities until we get an urban service area approval.
Okay.
But that'll be forthcoming this year.
Okay.
Then the only other thing I'd say is there's a house there right now, there's a garage there. We would love to put up some other storage type of a thing that we could operate out of currently. So the plan is to move the business into that space that already exists and then build out the rest once we can. So.
I mean, we're looking to land like headquarters types of businesses out there, and if the first thing they see is some storage units, we have a clean slate out there right now,
Right.
for the most part. So that's my personal concern, having gone through all the work with the tax increment districts.
Sure, right.
Melissa?
The other issue too is that your property is right in the middle of the TID. So for the clean slate, it would be right in the middle as far as any bigger business coming in that they're trying to get out there.
I think I do have, I don't know if it would be helpful to see what that map looks like. Does everybody, maybe it's there already, because you already know what that one looks like. So.
Fred?
I basically agree with everything that's been said. I would feel better if I could see the business part of it before the storage units. It bothers me because it's a clean piece of property that we're heading down a path once we approve this, and that could very well preclude future development.
And just so everybody knows why we won't build the office first, it's too expensive and there's no return, and so we're just trying to fund it. So I think that makes sense, right? So.
I mean, I think that your business is something that is needed in our community, and I think it's a great business model. I mean, it's great that you help out the elderly and help them to reduce the amount of belongings that they have so that they can move into a smaller place. And I wish that there was a different place that we were asking for.
Yeah, it's probably bought, right?
Yeah, I know.
And that was another thing, came up with CDA, maybe you should have bought somewhere else. I'm like, all right, well, the last CDA meeting a year ago was the night before the closing on the property. So, again, I'm looking at the timing. I knew we were committed, but I looked at the time last night, so you're looking at. So,
is there another spot in the village? I mean, easy for us to say, sell this one and buy another one.
Yeah.
Have you actually looked?
We looked around for quite a long time, and there are multiple challenges. Wetlands are a
Right.
really significant part of that.
Right.
Topography, everything that this last lady brought up, those are the reasons we chose this site. This site's spectacular for development. It's flat. There's probably no wetlands. It's got natural drainage to a low point where you can do your stormwater collection. So from a development perspective, I think it's an unbelievably perfect piece of land to develop, and we looked around for a long time.
That's why you bought it, right?
Which is why we bought it, absolutely. And again, I mean, we'll sell it, right? So if that's what it comes down to, we'll sell it, and we found some properties, found a couple in Sun Prairie, so more than likely we would go to Sun Prairie.
I always hate to, I mean, like Melissa said, your business is such a good business, I hate to see you leave.
And it's kind of funny, we actually offered a lady from Cottage Grove a job today. You talk about creating jobs, right? An occupational therapist who lives here in town, so she's going to come shadow on Monday. So again, we would, and of course, we basically, we live technically in the town of Sun Prairie, but we're in Cottage Grove. We come here for all our, shopping and groceries and everything else. So we really kind of live in the village. We'd love to have this in the village.
And I guess the only thing that I just want to add, if I can too, is, I feel like in the beginning, like if our core is the downsizing part of our business, but just as luck would have it, we just, kind of keep expanding and adding services. And I think that over this past year, 2 years ago, we kind of started doing moving services as well. But this year we ended up hiring like 3 guys who used to work for Mayflower. So now we're really, like this year, our moving side is amazing. So I feel like the downsizing is my core, which I don't want to lose the downsizing. And, and again, I'm still into helping seniors remove their things and sell them and donate them. So it's not even like I want the storage to be able to save my clients' items. I still want to encourage them to downsize and not have them. So I feel my core is still the downsizing, and then we've moved on to this moving side. So now we have, trucks that we're parking out here, and it just keeps growing. And I just feel like it's nothing that we, kind of necessarily planned on in the beginning, but it's just going so well. And I guess, my staff loves it, and we just keep, adding moving. I just feel like storage is just a nice, so it all kind of complements each other. So, when I look at the whole project, and I understand that maybe, someday other people are going to, come to the neighborhood, but I don't feel like we're a negative thorn. I feel like it's a nice looking place. I don't feel like it's a negative. It's not like we're just putting some garages up and you have orange doors like in the olden days. It's, it's a much different building. So.
And that's not what I'm getting at is it's just not just, it's such a great site, like you're saying. It's just not the highest best use, and the village doesn't have a lot of good commercial land to make a big impact as far as value, as far as like taxable value, and as far as employee base. And I think this would hinder that. So.
Yeah, I think your storage facilities look beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, and the layout that you had, but that's not the issue at this point, unfortunately.
I had a nice meeting with my banker today and just went through a variety of different discussions, and he was telling me one of his clients owned Dairy Queen, and UW Credit Union came in and said, hey, we want this site, and they bought it from him. Again, somebody comes and says, hey, we want our corporate headquarters in this spot. Great, I'm happy to sell it to you. It works out really well, right? So, but again, I don't, yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's more of a timing issue and just kind of past history that you're up against. I mean, that's what I was trying to allude to, but I can name a number of projects that we were promised phase 2 and on, and some of them we were promised phase 1 on, and we're not even shoveling.
You can have it with any size developer, right? No matter what the.
That's just really what you're up against here, unfortunately. And if this was towards the end of the development, I think it'd be a completely different conversation. But since it's at the beginning and it's at a new TID district, you're getting a totally different feedback that you would get at a later time. And for me, I have a hard time going against our CDA. I mean, that's really why they put that process in place on going to CDA, coming to plan, coming to the board, to the tune of where I would not necessarily vote on this, but more table it to see if we can get the CDA to come up with some sort of medium from where you went in front of them and where we're currently sitting, and try to come up with something that there may be a little bit more in favor of. It'd be a different experience for you.
I think that
So-
we would be open to that. Matter of fact, I think what we had asked was the CDA to give us input on the site plan. And so when I went and asked for input, and their input was no. And I said, okay, well, what does that mean? What do we have to do to change it? And they just said, no. We told you not to buy this last year. So that's, I guess, I didn't get a sense that maybe there was a medium, but if there's a medium and we want to talk about that, that's great.
And I think maybe they're just assuming that because of what you've already said, that you're not interested in doing the business right away, that's just not going to happen. But maybe if you can incorporate those things into a phase one, that would be that level ground. But if that's not cost effective or not possible, then maybe they're just throwing their hands up. I don't know. But that would be the way that I'm kind of gauging the meetings that I've seen.
Or maybe the minis would be not on the front portion of it, potentially. I mean, I've seen that where, even in some currently developed stuff where you'll have actual business on the front and in the back where you really can't see it, or the minis.
Well, as you know, mini storage is a retail business, right? So
Oh,
you
yeah,
want people
yeah.
to see them, so if they can't see them, it's tough to make it actually work out financially. You can advertise and try to get it, but it's tough, If, just for hypothetical sake, just because it's fascinating discussion, let's just say for fun, we said, all right, we're going to do phase one and phase two all up front. We're going to do 250 storage units, and we're going to do an office right from the get-go. Are you saying that's something that you would be in favor of?
I think that they would look at it a lot more in depth because it would create a different discussion of what that does to that district. However, I still don't know if it would be enough incentive to ask for incentive out of the district being so new into that district. So I think you'd get a lot better chance saying, hey, we're going to bring 15 employees, we're going to bring, X, Y, and Z. I think that it'd be a different discussion than what's currently being proposed.
And we are saying we would bring 32 employees, and that comes because we can operate out of that house that's there. So that still comes
Right.
from the federal grant, but it's just
I think their issue is they want the clean slate more so than the.
Well, it's hard to guess what the increment's going to be on the storage facilities themselves, where it's a lot easier to say this office building is costing this and this is what it brings back for tax money.
We're hoping for 300 million to 500 million out there in taxable value, so this isn't a good start.
So when we looked at the development revenues, it worked out to like $1.5 million per acre of development, which I think is consistent with the 300 to 500.
If
So
you make it to phase 6.
If we get through our whole project, yes, exactly right, exactly right.
Guess I'm looking for some sort of motion.
I'll motion to table, and I guess until CDA is maybe a little bit more in favor of the vision of the project.
Okay?
Until the CDA is in
Well,
more favor of
is there-
the vision.
The process is CDA planning board. The CDA voted 6 against.
Right.
I want to see a little bit, I want to see some in favor of the project.
Right, so I mean, that could be a long time.
If we're-
It's better, you can table it for as long as you want. I mean,
Yeah, if you want to table this, that's what should happen, it should be tabled. And then the next meeting, you can take it off the table, following Robert's rules, true Robert's rules. Then if you don't take it off the table, it dies. But you can take it off the table, discuss it, and put it back on the table. That's possible, but once you make a motion to table, everything stops and you act on that motion.
right.
So basically, it'll just be tabled till next time.
If
If
you
we bring it back.
if you pass the motion to table,
There's not even been a second that I heard.
okay? If there's a second, and then yours, vote, yeah, I agree.
So repeat your motion, please.
I motion to table until I get a positive,
It's just table.
Yeah.
table, sure, I'll motion to table.
Okay, I will second
Yep.
that motion.
Now you take a vote.
But then, Does that mean that it would come back again?
It'll be tabled, and then it'll be on the agenda for next time, and you can take it off the table. And if you don't, you can make a decision of whether it stays or goes away.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I'm sorry, so then can I ask a question? I'm just curious, so then, that means we have to go back to them again, like next month, before you guys meet, and discuss it again, and see if we change their mind?
So what they're saying is that, yeah, you'd have to convince the CDA.
To get on their agenda.
But how would they wouldn't they have to reconsider?
It'd have to
So
be,
wouldn't they need multiple people to?
I mean, it becomes difficult, and I think that that's the reality of this at any level I can see it. I mean, I haven't really said anything other than talking about tabling, but the fact that these are new TIDs and the fact that the CDA has a role in them, I think that's a role, like Kyle's saying, that has to be respected. I mean, they had a vision when they created these, and when they say your proposal doesn't fit in that vision, it's not that there's anything wrong with the proposal or that they don't like the proposal. It's just the wrong proposal in the wrong place at the wrong time. And we had a development across the street that they wanted to have go in, and it was then, and they said, oh, this we'll build these so fast we won't be able to keep up with it. Well, okay, phase one, and we said, okay, now we need to know exactly when you're going to start phase two. Oh, well, we don't want to commit to phase two. Well, guess what? We don't want to commit to phase one. So we've been through, and it's not because they were bad people so much as it just was they didn't want to take the risk. And I think that the CDA and members of the Plan Commission are saying, okay, we have a clean slate, and we're reluctant to do anything that would interrupt that clean slate or cause a problem with it.
so you can clarify me, but from my understanding, if we table it, it can be taken off the agenda, it can come back at a later time after the CDA is in favor of the
Well,
proposal.
you could either table it, or you could withdraw the motion to table, and then say that, and make it table to a date certain. There's a variety of things that we can do, but right now in front of us is a motion to table, and if you want to do something more elaborate with it, then I would vote down the motion to table and then start again.
I really don't see the CDA changing their vision.
Well, there's not even a process to put it on the
I
agenda
agree.
for the CDA. Because
I'd rather you just say no, and then at least we're done with it, right? I would agree with you 100%.
The CDA was pretty,
Well,
They-
the point is if you go in
Right.
front of the CDA and you mix phase 1 and 2, it's a completely different conversation than what is in front of us
Yeah, and
today.
I
If you want me
kinda
to,
don't think it would be a real
They're-
different.
that's your
Right.
opinion. I mean, I don't know unless you go in front of the CDA, but
Yeah.
I guess if you wanted me to vote on what I'm looking at right now, I would say no, but I'm saying that I'm not no to the project. If it's reconfigured and got approval from the other bodies, then it's a different thing. So I'm not saying no to the project, I'm saying get some support, try to adjust it and get some support and come back to the.
Kyle, I think it's just cleaner if this gets tabled, and then it's up to them to say, well, okay, we understand the lay of the land, and the lay of the land is we gotta convince the CDA. And if we can't convince the CDA, we're probably not gonna be able to convince you.
So they'll rescind on being on the agenda next time? Is that what you're saying?
They'll be on this agenda, because if the item is tabled
It'll be on the next agenda?
for the plan.
Yeah.
for plan, right?
Do you want to go back to the CDA and ask again?
I guess, again, if we had gotten any guidance and this is what we'd like to see, then I would say, sure, yeah, we'll work with them. But we didn't even get a hint. The first time they said it was, oh, the zoning doesn't fit. And this last time it's, oh, we just don't like the project. It wasn't, it's not. Matter of fact, one of the guys, I don't remember who was, said, oh, it looks pretty, it just isn't something we want.
Right.
So,
So
I
you
don't-
didn't get the inkling that if you added this two phases together, that it would make any difference?
I mean, nobody brought that up and said, well, if this was bigger, if there were more, then we would go for it. I didn't get that sense. I mean, I don't know if anybody else got a sense that they were open to that concept, but.
I was there, I did not get that sense.
I think it was just more maybe off of the comments that were made that it's not cost effective and not likely, so they're just assuming it's not going to happen. I mean, you said it tonight even. it's not cost effective to do that right now. So me talking to you, I assume that that's not even a possibility because of what was said. But if I put it back in your hands and say, if you want to reconsider and readjust these things and go have those conversations and get them to approve it, I'd look at it completely differently. So that's all I'm saying. I mean, if it's easier, I can definitely rescind my, my
You're
tabling.
saying keep the motion, right?
Well, he's saying you can table it. And
Yeah, right.
You can table it. And I think that there is a motion on the floor to table, and I don't know, I can't remember where it came up, but it did come up recently, and I had my little Robert's rules right there, and you're not, once you say motion to table, everything's supposed to stop. So I would say vote on that motion to table.
We blew past that a little bit. I think we blew past that.
Well, I'm just saying, this is still a Robert's Rules light, and it doesn't have to even be up on the board for me to see that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table.
Yeah. So I vote on that right now, and if you want to continue the discussion, vote down the motion to table.
All those in favor of tabling this signify by saying aye. Okay.
I'm fine.
All those against, nay?
Nay.
Or nay? Abstain?
Now you got a clean slate to decide where you want to go.
Yes.
Okay, so now what,
So, do we need a motion to not approve it?
Can the applicant just withdraw their application until
Yes.
something changes that?
Yes.
Is what happens with that? So let's say we withdraw our
It's up
application.
to you to bring it back to reapply when you think you have a better chance of.
So I mean, it's the same thing if you guys deny it. It's up
Right.
to us if we want to reapply, right?
Well, I think you are in a different position if the plan commission votes no, than if you just withdraw it. I think you're in a better position if you withdraw it, and it gives you a chance to try to think of some other ways to approach it.
because if you came back with a CDA being in favor of it or mostly in favor of it, and you're adding to it, like I said, there's a better chance, there's a better odds that it's gonna get passed.
Sure.
I mean, it's no different than the business park, there's an architectural review committee, and we get, it has, they have to be in favor of it, and they put extra conditions on projects, and then we look to what the architectural review committee says on anything down in the business park, and, from there we go, but I don't know, anything has never made it here that didn't get past the architectural review committee, you know what I mean? So nothing's ever jumped past them and gotten passed through unless it's been approved by them to their satisfaction. So it's kind of the same thing here with the CDA.
So if I withdraw, or let's say I withdraw, do I get money back? I'm trying to think of other advantages. Otherwise, I think I'd have to reapply anyway and come up with a whole new site plan, and everything would all be new information.
Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they withdraw, if it was denied, then
Then you're
you
not
would
getting
need
anything.
motions to reconsider here. The CDA will still need motions to reconsider because I can't just put it back on the agenda because it'll be like, we already decided on this. So you would need, is it two people from?
Two people who had voted in the majority to move and to move that. They would have to say, since it was 6-0, then it has to, then two people from that majority have to, one has to say, I move to vacate the action, and then if someone seconds that, and then it can go back on the table. I think you're in a better position procedurally. I'm not going to give you, I can't give you legal advice. I'm just telling you from my perspective, you're in a better position procedurally if you follow Aaron's thought, which is to simply withdraw it.
At some point down the road, if we know we have the construction of the utilities scheduled, if someone has bought the land around you and we kind of know what it's going to be, then maybe without changing anything, we'll have a better sense, yes, this fits. Where right now, we're just kind of guessing. This is where I'm coming from.
How long does that, let's say we withdraw, how long does that stay sort of potentially reactivatable?
I don't think there's necessarily a shelf life, but from everything that you've heard, all I can do is encourage you to say, well, okay, here are the obstacles that are currently in our way. A massive water and sewer extension, which isn't going to happen unless there's some strong reason to do it. How's it going to be paid for? There's nothing else there. How am I going to fit within the parameters that I'm hearing that they're looking for? So it's really, it's up to you, but it doesn't carry the negative connotation. Nobody can say, well, we've already voted that down, at least at the planning commission.
Let's say that it got voted down and then we came back next year with a totally different site plan. Does that still need approval from two people to reconsider a totally different site plan?
Well, if in Aaron's judgment and the judgment of staff, it's a completely different proposal, then it's a completely different proposal. But if it's going to be, well, now we're going to have green doors instead of orange doors, that's not going to cut it.
Sure. So, but if it's totally different, then it doesn't need.
Well, I'll let you decide that.
I'll let you
That's
guys
another
vote it down.
one.
I'll just let you vote it down. It's okay. It's all right. And then we'll go to the village board and I'll let you vote it down there. And at least we can have some closure and be done with it.
Well, it won't even go to the village board if we vote it down.
Yeah.
Is that right? Does it
Yeah.
not go to the village board?
Right. The only way it would go to the village board is if it was approved.
Okay. So that's great too.
If there was any chance that you thought you'd want to come back with a different plan, then withdrawing would be better.
I think it's,
And again, I mean, I don't even know which direction to go with
Yeah.
the plan to change it. So to me,
It
and
doesn't matter.
we don't know when these other developments might happen.
Right.
It could be 10 years. We might get, I mean, there's still significant empty spaces in the pit that's been there for 15 years. You mentioned this one, so it may never happen, right?
Right.
So that puts me in a tough spot to try to leave some, so I think, if I had a direction, hey, we want this, then great. But with no direction, and
We'll have to check on that because I think that, Plan Commission's ultimately advisory, so I think it would just be passing on recommendations to the board to not approve.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they
I
still would
don't know
go.
that for sure, I'm just saying that's,
Okay.
I think how that's been done,
Well,
because there
They're
have
happening
been,
within 48 hours, so.
there have been a couple projects over the years that the board has approved after the Plan Commission did
That's
not
true.
approve.
That's true.
I'm going to do a motion to deny approval of the site plan for the first phase of an office and light industrial project to be located at 4901 County Highway 9.
Oh, second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to deny the project. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed? Nay.
Nay. Abstain? Okay.
thank you very much. Yeah, no, like I said, we had a couple others, so we'll be good. Thank you very much.
Does that mean the next one? We need
Okay.
to do a motion as well?
Item 12.
Oh, we just, 11.
11?
We don't have to untable it though, right?
No, we denied it.
We denied it, so.
Yeah.
Number
There's
10.
2 items.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't, we
All
denied
right, so
number
let's,
10.
you can deny 11 too.
I'll make a motion to deny number 11.
Deny.
I'll second.
Okay. So a motion and a second to deny the conditional use permit for personal storage units as a component of a larger project to be located at 4901 County Highway N. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstain?
I figured my vote should be
Absolutely,
the
you
same,
got
right?
it, yeah, I don't want you to be,
Don't be inconsistent.
that's right, consistent.
Item 12, update on comprehensive plan survey.
Very briefly, it's been posted for a week and a half or 2 weeks. We've got 185 responses already as of this afternoon.
Wow, by who? I like who responds to you? Like residents or?
There were some town residents as well, but yeah, mostly village residents.
Okay.
It's going to be up till the end of the month. We keep putting it up on Facebook. The chamber has shared it, our other Parks Department, and people have shared it, so the link is getting around. If you haven't done it yet, then you should, and tell your friends.
I've shared it too.
So it's on the village website?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the Survey Monkey one?
Yep.
Okay.
Item 13, comments from Plan Commission members. Kyle?
No comment.
Phyllis?
No comment.
Melissa?
No comment.
Fred?
No comment.
Boy, everyone's lips are sealed.
Oh, we did enough talking.
Item 14, future
What
agenda
about-
items.
What about you?
What about me? You know, usually I got over the weeds and the roundabouts. I just close my eyes when I go through them. Every morning and every night.
Don, every time we go out of town, I hang out the car, I check to see if they're clipped or not. My wife goes, can't you get that solved?
The village is working on a right-of-way permit that'll be submitted to the state for authority to clean them up.
Do what we want.
It's just, you know, we're trying to promote business and all that. It just looks absolutely horrible.
Yeah, there was the problem between the village and the county
Oh,
and
I
the state and
understand.
not knowing who was doing what.
It's
so,
also
yeah.
a vision issue. You know
Well,
what I mean?
but
With-
they
I
don't
think-
want you to be able to see like right through.
No?
Because you're supposed to look.
Yeah, that's
here.
by design.
Okay.
But you're supposed to be able to see if an emergency vehicle is coming
Mike?
or nothing
No.
at all.
If you don't see a vehicle, you should be able to go through.
No, it's just seeing to your left.
Okay.
That's all you want to do.
I don't have a problem with roundabouts. Just
Only when you go through them.
yeah, right.
All right.
See, you asked.
Sorry.
Apparently Melissa wasn't here when I'd rant about that every month.
Was that last week? Or was that
No, we're talking
okay.
like a year ago.
Oh, yeah, no, I missed that,
Probably
sorry.
wishing she wasn't here right now.
Well, it's been a year. I think it was about time it was brought up again, though, right?
Okay, I think you're right.
Okay.
So any other future agenda items?
Apparently,
We'll see how quickly the farm people move. Shady Grove is talking about coming back for their zoning. Comp plan survey will be closed, so we can take a look at the results of that.
Okay.
is there anything on Polco right now?
Yeah. There's, yeah.
Great.
Motion to adjourn.
Item
Second.
15, motion to adjourn.
You got us, Lisa?
Brett
Okay,
already
we're
made
good.
a motion. Did you second it, Bill?
No.
Melissa did.
We kind of did it at the
Oh,
same time.
okay.
We let Lisa figure it out.
Motion and second to adjourn. Item's non-debatable. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, we're done.
Non-debatable, how can you
But
vote no?
here, you know,